Hi everyone, my name is mpyanev, a professional software engineer and a computer science professor at Fitchburg State University. Today I will show you how you can use the ChatGPT API to build a simple AI Python application that cover actual computer science lectures. This video is part of our live ChatGPT API series that I show you the exact lectures that take place in the university where I'm teaching computer science. If you just came across my channel or you're some of my existing students, consider subscribing for more videos like this one. Also, if you have any questions, please write them down in the comments. Now, let's jump straight to the topic for today. Okay, so firstly, we're going to go into what applications we're going to do throughout the class. Okay, so I put them right here. You can see most of the applications that we're going to do, if not all of them. I added some new ones as well, so this might be not the full list, but here you can see the different applications, what they do, and what technologies you're going to learn when you do those applications, okay? So for example, here you can see we're going to build a very simple ChatGPT clone. This is actually going to be our first task. I will show you how you can build applications similar to ChatGPT, where you ask questions, you get replies, you can retain the chat history, and so on. Okay? During the next weeks, we're going to build an application that fixes code automatically. So you put the code, you put the error, and you get the fix. Okay? We're also going to learn how to, as I said, add payment service, how to deploy the applications. What else? We're going to also build an app that is building essays. As I said, we're going to do PowerPoint presentations using AI. So, you know, we're going to use the different APIs to build us the text, the images, and we're going to integrate this with PowerPoint so the presentation is created immediately, you know. Also, we're going to build a language translation and language transcription applications. And finally, I will show you how you can fine-tune ChatGPT models, which means how you can create your custom ChatGPT model using Python. So by custom, I mean, for example, if you work for a company that has private data, you obviously cannot expect that the artificial intelligence will know this data, right? So I will show you how you can use specific data to train your model and then use this trained model to perform certain tasks. Okay, so pretty much this is what we're going to be covering during the class. Okay, so there are three main APIs that we're going to be using. The first one is obviously ChatGPT. So I'm going to ask you, what's the main purpose of ChatGPT? What it does, in a very simple terms. I know you've all used it for your classes, right? Okay, so what it does? Don't be shy. Yes. So you ask something, so you write something, a text, and you get a text back, right? This is in a simple words. Okay. Have somebody of you heard about Whisper? Anyone? Okay. So Whisper is an API that is used to transcribe or translate text. Okay? It is very simple and you can add it to your code in order to do that, which means you can build applications with it. So we're going to learn how to use Whisper as well. And the final one is DALL-E. Who have heard about DALL-E? What DALL-E is doing? Generate images, exactly. Have somebody of you heard about Sora? Yes.
Creating images and videos.
Video, yes. So Sora, it hasn't actually been launched for the people to use, right? Maybe during this class they're going to finalize it so we can use the Sora API. We'll see about it. But Sora, as you said, it is used to create very realistic videos. right? So you write a certain prompt and Sora will generate video. I'm going to cover it very briefly in this class, but since there is not API yet, we're not going to build applications with it. If we're lucky and they release the API, I will try to make a project so you can also see how you can use it. And you're going to be some of the first people that are going to do that. Okay, so another question. So who of you is familiar with APIs? How APIs work? Yes.
It's a kind of like backend, they wrote some code and
Yes.
it from the user side.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. So we're doing a request to the, so you can imagine the OpenAI as a very big building with a lot of servers there. They use new types of chips, okay, that are in most cases built from NVIDIA. Those, if you noticed recently, the NVIDIA stock skyrocketed. This is because they use AI chips, right? So they have those big buildings with a lot of machines that have AI chips, and they can process requests from anyone. As you said, we're using an API key to authenticate ourselves. We're doing a request, and we're getting a response with either the text or the image or the audio, okay? And this is what we're doing, right? So the users, which is us, we're going to do the request to those servers, right? And we're going to get a response that we're then going to use in our code and process it, okay? All right. So even though you're used to use, ChatGPT, for example, there are some variables that we can really control. So this determines what our answer from the AI is going to be, okay? The first thing is the model. So if you keep up with the OpenAI, which is the company that built ChatGPT, you can see that with the time we're getting new models. Each model is more intelligent than the previous one. We'll have a special lecture about all of those different parameters, but the first important thing is which model you are going to choose. So some of you might say, okay, but if the latest model is the best, I would just want the latest model. Right? Why would I need to pick the previous models? So can some of you tell me a reason why would you want to pick a previous model, not the latest one? I can give you one reason, for example, the cost, right? So a later model can be more expensive than an older model. And this is actually the case, for example, when you compare ChatGPT 4 and GPT 3.5. GPT-4 is 10 times more expensive to use, so I'd rather use 3.5 and get a little bit smaller performance, but safe on my application. Okay. Then we have the tokens. This is another limit that we have. So when you're dealing with AI models, it is important how many words you can send and how many words you can receive. If you ever use ChatGPT, you know that if you send a very long text, it might tell you this text is too long, I cannot process it, right? This is the same with the API models. So depending on the model, you're allowed to use certain amount of tokens. You can imagine one token is equal to 3 or 4 characters. Okay, 3 or 4 characters are one token. Some models can support up to 8,000 tokens. Some models can support up to 128,000 tokens. It really depends. And this is also very important because when you send your request, you can tell to ChatGPT, hey, I want your answer to be up to this amount of tokens because I don't want longer answers. In some situations, this might be very beneficial. Then we have the temperature. So the temperature is also a very important parameter. This controls how creative or how detail-oriented your AI model is. So if you have a temperature that is very high, okay, your model is going to be way more creative. If it's very low, it's going to be way more precise. But then you might tell me, why would we need a creative model? We just want the most precise one. Well, there are different situations. Obviously, if you send to the model a math equation to solve, you want the model to be precise. If you want ideas for how to name your company, you want to be more creative, right? You don't want just the most popular answer. So the temperature is, of course, very important. And finally, this is actually one very key parameter, the choices. So you can control, based on the question that you ask ChatGPT, how many responses it is going to give you. Sometimes you don't want only one answer, you want many of them. So for that reason, you can control, let's say, if you want 10 different answers in the response, you can just control this parameter, okay? So this and more parameters we're going to learn in a specific lecture, and we will see how you can control them and change the outcome. Okay? Okay. So before me showing you the code and how to build an application, I will show you now how you can create API key. Let's first see the request and the response that we're getting when working with ChatGPT. Okay, so firstly, you can see here the request. Okay, so as you can see, it is very simple. Now, those lines are always for initialization, so we import the OpenAI library, we create a client object, and after that, we use this function, which is always the same, and we send first of all the model, okay, and after that, we're sending the messages or what we want to ask the AI model, right? So here, for example, I'm simulating a conversation that I'm going to send to the AI, and after I do only those lines of code, I'm going to get this response over there, okay? So in a typical response, for example, here you can see we have only one choice, so you get a choices list, okay? And here we have only one choice, so this is going to be the answer, okay, of ChatGPT. So we can use this then in our code, you know, to display this answer to the user or to perform certain task with it, okay? We're also getting, of course, way more parameters, as you can see. We're getting, for example, how many tokens we used, if you want to track that. We're getting which model we used, and so on, okay? So this is how the parameters look like. Before starting to code, are there any questions so far? No questions? Okay. Good. All right. So now, I know that some of you might use some type of editors, some of you might use others. Usually, I'm using PyCharm, okay, so this is the IDE with which I'm working with Python, but you can also use VS Code if you're familiar with VS Code. You can use anything else, right? There are many IDEs. If you're familiar with your own IDE, you can use it, right? Why I use PyCharm is just because this IDE is making working with Python a little bit more simple comparing to the rest. Okay. Still, all the commands that we will need, I will type them in the terminal window, so they're not going to be IDE specific. Okay. And I know that some of you might not be very familiar with like a lot of coding, right? So you're going to learn this throughout the class, okay? And you can just start with PyCharm in that situation, okay? All right. Okay. So let me tell you a few words about working with Python, okay, before starting. So when you're working with Python, I would tell you that 95% of the situations where you have your Python code not working properly, or let's say you download Python code from somewhere but it's not working for you for some reason, 95% of the situation is because of the Python virtual environment, okay? 95% every time when somebody comes to me at work and tells me, okay, my Python code is not working. I'm using exactly the same as yours. What's going on? This means that they don't have the virtual environment set up properly. Okay, so this is something, if you want to be a Python developer, this is something that you really need to pay attention about. Okay, so what is the Python virtual environment? Can somebody tell me? Does anybody have idea? Yes.
Making some kind of
Exactly. Yes. Yes. True. So exactly. So imagine you install Python on your computer. Okay, and how Python works. When you have Python installed on your computer and when you want to work on some project, this project might require some special libraries that you need to install in your Python folders, right? So you have Python installed in certain folder and you need some libraries installed in that folder in order for your project to work. If it was not like this, and let's say you install Python and you have all the libraries already, you would have terabytes and terabytes of files installed on your device. So what you want is just the files, the libraries specific to your project. Okay? So instead of install the files for your project, the libraries for your project, in your global Python version that is somewhere on your computer, instead you're doing a copy of your Python version inside your project. Okay? And you have a folder that is with a copy of Python. And this folder is called virtual environment. Okay, this folder is a copy of Python that is inside your project. And now you can install all of the libraries for your project inside this virtual environment. So then when you run your project, you run it with the Python installed in the virtual environment, okay? And you don't need to install libraries in your device, okay? You just need to install it in this specific folder, which has a copy of Python. So I would advise you, of course, we'll go more over it in this class, but I also advise you to research that and really understand what virtual environment is, how to use it, and how to always have control over your Python libraries. Okay, and finally, I just wanted to show you the two main Python libraries that we're going to use in this class to build applications. So the first one is called Flask, which is used for SaaS applications or applications that you access over the internet. And then the second Python library is called tkinter, which you might have used in some of your other classes if you had anything related to Python. I know some of my colleagues are also using this library. So this library is very simple and it is used to build a desktop application. Desktop application is you click the play button on your code and then you see a window with buttons, fields, those type of things. And when you insert data in the fields, click the button, some actions are happening. Okay, so we're going to use those two libraries. All right. Okay, so first of all, if you want to download Python, you just write Python, you go to python.org, okay, and depending on what system you use, so whether you use Mac OS, for example, use Mac OS, so it tells me to download this one. So depending whether you use Mac OS, Linux, or Windows. Actually, is anyone using Linux from you? I think there are not many people using it. Okay. So you just download the latest Python version, okay? Which is, in this case, 3.12.6. Okay, I will not install it, but I will just show you how it looks. Now the next thing is to download PyCharm, which is the IDE that we're going to be using. So just go to here. So write PyCharm community. Okay, and here you can see the first link, download PyCharm. So when you write PyCharm community, here first of course they will show you PyCharm Professional, which is paid version. But if you go down here, here you go, you can download the PyCharm community. Okay, so again, download, make sure you select your operating system, which in my case, it knows that I'm using Mac. Download it, install it, just like every other installation. I'm not gonna get over it because you're just pressing next, 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 and that's it. Okay? All right. So now I will open my PyCharm, okay, and I will show you a very simple example on how you can use ChatGPT, okay. So we're going to do a request and we're going to get a response. So now I advise you, if you have your laptops, open them, install PyCharm and Python if you can. If not, you can just follow up. So if you have only Python installed, I think you can create a idle file, but okay, let's go step by step. I will first show you here, and then I will go over each of you, and we can figure out what you can use. Okay. All right. So I'll create a new project. Let's call it Python project 23. Okay. So this is an example on OpenAI project, or how you can run it. So one good thing with PyCharm is that when you create a project, your virtual environment is already created. Okay, so you don't need to think about it. So as you can see here, we have V and V, right? So this means you can start writing the code straight away. Okay. So also, let me see where it was. Okay, find that. Okay. If you don't have, let's say, a virtual environment, you can also create it manually. It is very simple as well. Okay, you can just create it from the terminal. But what's important here, and this is why I like to use PyCharm, because it saves you a lot of time. So now I created a project, and when I click the terminal, I'm already inside my virtual environment. And here, if I want to install any libraries, okay, they are going to get in the virtual environment. Okay, so for example, you can see that right now OpenAI right here is a library that we're using, right? So if it's underlined in red, this means that this library is not installed. So how we can install it? Just by doing pipe install OpenAI. Okay. So if I do that, you can see that this library gets installed. And if I open the virtual environment, and if I go like down here, you can see that this has been just installed. So you just do pipe install OpenAI. And now you can see that this library is no longer in red. So what's happening in here? Firstly, we import the OpenAI library, After that, we add the API key right here, and in this way, we get authenticated, right? So now, when we do the request, OpenAI will know that I'm using my specific account, so it knows to charge my account, and it will give me access, okay? After that, right here, where I write question, I'm using the input keyword in order to ask the user question. So I'll get asked question here in the terminal, and wherever I write in the terminal, it will get sent to ChatGPT. How are we going to do that? Now, here pay attention. So when the user writes any question, it will get assigned to this variable called question, okay? And then I'll use this variable question that we just asked right here in the message that we sent to the AI, okay? So as I said, this is how you can contact OpenAI. So you do client.chat.completions.create, okay? So use this client right here. Then you specify which model you want to use, how many tokens, what's the temperature, what was temperature, by the way? What did we need it for? Do you remember? Sorry?
Number of responses.
No. It was something else. Yes, accuracy or creativity. The number of responses is the choice variable. So here we don't have this variable, which means that it assumes only one response. Okay. Okay. Then we have the messages that we want to send. So I'm sending only one message. The row is user. Okay. And later I will show you why do we need to specify the row, what rows are, why do we need rows. We're going to focus on this later on. But now it's just important to know this is how we send a message to ChatGPT, just like how you're going to send it in, when you use the ChatGPT application. Okay? And finally here, if you remember the picture of the response that I showed you, there were like so many parameters, right? There was the choices parameter in a list, then inside there were even more parameters. So what I'm doing here, if you can see, the response from ChatGPT is going to be attached to this variable right here. And after that, from the response, I take the first choice from the list, right? Then from the first choice, I choose the message, and then I want to see the content of the message, right? If I bring back the slide, I can actually show you this very clearly. Okay, so right here. So you can see that when we get the response, here's the choices, okay? Then from the choices, we go to the message, okay? Then we go to the content. So this is why I do this with a dot, okay? Okay. And this means that here we're doing with this line what? We're displaying the response, pretty much. Okay, should we try it out? Let's try it out. So I'm going to run the code. Okay. And as you can see, when I press the play button, I get here, what would you like to ask ChatGPT, right? You can see that. Now, here now I can write, what would we like to ask ChatGPT? Any ideas? What's the weather? What's the weather? Okay, let's ask what is the climate in New York, for example. Because if I ask for the weather today, it's not gonna it's not gonna tell me. But yeah. By the way, in the spring, when I was doing exactly the same lecture, one student told me, "Why don't you ask what's the time right now?" This also not gonna work. But yeah, I'm always. True, it's true. And also, by the way, it's very interesting topic on making a live AI model. So you actually, theoretically, it is possible to do that, right? imagine you can fine-tune a model constantly with some current information, right? And then when you ask this model, it can actually really give you up-to-date information, okay? But okay, let's ask, what is the climate in New York? Okay, I'll click enter. So it takes a few seconds to respond. Of course, this is a very short answer. And you can see that we actually got the right message. So New York has humid subtropical climate and so on. You can see here the whole message. It is not too long. Why it is not too long? Exactly. So the number of tokens is just 250. If I put the number of tokens equals to 1000, it will give me way longer response. Okay? So yeah, this is how it works. Now, you can notice that here we printed the content, right? If I just print the response, I should get something very ugly. So let's say, how are you? Okay, and you can see that this is the actual response that we're getting. Okay, so we have the specific ideal response, we have the choices. Okay, we have here the first choice, so this is a list, right? We have the first choice, here we have the message, and here we have the content, right? And this is the actual content from the model. Pretty cool, right? So it gets even cooler when we work with images, right? You're gonna see. So basically you're getting this content, and it might look simple, but with this you can do many powerful things, because you can say to the AI how you want this content to be structured. And if you are able to say that, then you're able to modify this content using code after that and build pretty cool applications. Okay? So I just wanted to show you how you can do that. Of course, this code is going to be also uploaded in Blackboard. So I advise you, now when you go home, you can try it yourself and do a few requests, responses, so you can see how it works. Also, what I think is very good for you to do is modify those parameters and see what's going to happen. Okay? We'll have a lecture where we're going to do that. But you can just try out and see. Okay? Okay. So what I would want to ask you for this week, the most important thing for you is first, get Python installed on your devices. Second, get PyCharm or any type of IDE installed on your devices. Okay. Third, if you have problem with any of those two, write me an email and we're going to figure it out. Okay. So I would say do those things, and once you have PyCharm and Python installed or any other IDE, try running this code and make sure that this works for you. Okay. During the next class, how I usually work is I'm showing you how to program things, right? And then I will go around and check with each of you what you've done, if it's working for you, if you have some problems, and I'll help you to resolve the problems of each and every of you. Okay? But really make sure that those are installed so we can move a little bit faster. Any other questions about this? Okay. Now, I just want to show you, in case you're using another IDE, how you can work with environments. Okay, so now I will show you how you can delete the virtual environment and how you can create it just from the terminal line right here. So how to do this manually but not automatically. Okay, so let's say I want to exit the virtual environment, so I will do deactivate. Okay, and as you can see now I don't see the keyword venv. So now if I install a package, where is it going to be installed? If I do pipe install OpenAI, where is it going to get installed? Right here. Yeah? Yeah, it's gonna get installed globally, not in this folder, but it's gonna get installed in the global Python folder. Okay, and let's say if I want to activate my virtual environment, I'm going to do, and this is for MacBook, for Windows it's also very simple. So I will do just source v bin activate. Okay, and as you can see, this will activate, so then we can install libraries. Okay, so as I said, all the libraries we use, we do it always in the beginning of the file. So when you see somewhere from or import, this means we are putting third-party library inside our project. And then later on in the code, we're going to use this library. This is how Python works.